Hey YouTube, and always post 1975. It's funny, right? Well, it's not funny at all. Talking to someone at work last night, and because obviously we were just talking modern consoles or modern generation, or last generation as well. But kind of inspired by the fact that obviously Grand Theft Auto 5 just been released, and it was a big deal. And yeah, my mate was going on about it. And to some degree, I've talked about this before, and I kind of agree with him. But yeah, it was like. It's ironic, isn't it, that we always wanted a home console that could give us the arcade experience, and I guess now that we finally have them, they've that's what's caused a decline in arcades. You could say that they're almost killing off the classic arcade or amusement arcade as we know it. And I said to my mate, well, there's a certain irony there, isn't there? Because you could argue that, at least to my mind, the amusement arcade had such an influence and basically shaped gaming as we know it on both the console, the computer. And I'm talking early home computers, and not just PC computers, and that may sound like a bold statement, but I don't know. And that's why I'm asking you the question, which is, do you think if amusement arcades had never existed or never took off? I know it's a statement you couldn't possibly make, but it's hypothetical. But never existed or never took off as they did, never became these sort of mainstream places that we always hung out as kids, to play the latest video game. They were more so just like slot places or pool halls or stuff like that. Do you think if they never existed in the form they do, and I'm talking sort of very late 70s right through to sort of mid to late 90s, that gaming as we know it would be a completely different and far removed thing from what it is now? And I gotta say, I think yes. I mean, obviously the amusement arcades were actually invented by like the Victorians, when the original like wind up machines, mechanical machines, in their penny arcades. But to me, it will always be, my fondest memory will always be, playing arcade machines in the, basically the early to late 80s. And this was a very important time, in the video game industry, because it was in its youth. It was growing. People realised that there was a market for this. And I can honestly say, if these places hadn't existed, would we be more computer-based, in society? Because computers have always existed, that, they've been powerful devices that have allowed us to do many, many amazing things, such as go to the moon and stuff like that. So there's no denying that they would still be around, but there would probably be games of that. I'm not saying if arcades didn't exist, there wouldn't even be games at all. They wouldn't have made it into the home, but I clearly think that their main focus wouldn't be on this. I think the fact that the arcades became such a staple of your life as a child that you wanted to experience and play these games, I think that basically made, and not just the obvious statement that obviously the companies like Atari, Nintendo, Sega, SNK made them want to make home systems to, cash in on the fact that people loved their machines. But I think it also kind of drove, the early computers that weren't invented for games, regardless of the fact that the Spectrum and the Commodore was so big, they were invented for something else, to be like a serious, affordable home computer, to allow you to do serious computer things. But the fact that, games became so, popular on them, and there's no denying that we wanted to play these amazing, amazing games in the arcade. So people would push these little machines to their limit, and we would get some absolutely amazing ports. So we were getting this experience at home, and then we want bigger and better arcade games, and so people would be like, well, we can't do that on this, manufacturers of the hardware, because they would be looking and knowing that this interest or lust for these machines, if they could deliver an experience that was closer to that and there would be better ports, they would sell machines. So there's no denying that they were dragging, at least in my mind, hardware with them. So possibly that was the jump from 8-bit to 16-bit, not just to provide bigger computing power, but because essentially the biggest market on these machines back in the day was software. And then obviously the companies such as Nintendo and Atari, they started making home systems, and they went through the roof, and there's no denying that they were going to port these games to their systems, and then there's only so much they could do, and they would upgrade. There's no denying that Sega jumped from 8-bit to 16-bit, not to just kind of catch up on Nintendo, but they knew that there was a massive demand for that, their arcade machines, such as Altered Beast, Afterburner, Outrun, things like that. So is it just me? I'd love to know what you think. But do you think now it would be such a completely different experience, if the amusement arcade as you know it had never existed? Would we be more advanced? Would we less advanced? I'd love to know what you think. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.